When you think about it, the universe is just unbelievably huge. And yet, when we listen, all we hear is silence. In a cosmos that really should be buzzing with life, why is everything so quiet? Well, today, we're diving into one of the most compelling answers to that question. Think of it as a cosmic detective story about something called the Great Filter. And it all kicks off with a really simple but kind of haunting question. It was famously asked by the physicist Enrico Fermi way back in 1950, just during a casual lunch. He looked around and said, "Where is everybody?" And that right there is the heart of the puzzle. I mean, think about it. Our galaxy alone has hundreds of billions of stars. The observable universe, trillions of galaxies. And it's had over 13 billion years for life to pop up and evolve. The basic math says the night sky should be lit up like a Christmas tree with signals from countless alien civilizations. But instead, nothing. What we have is what scientists call the Great Silence. Trillions of stars, billions of years, and not a single confirmed peak. So how in the world do you explain this cosmic ghost town? Well, the prime suspect in our little investigation is a really powerful and honestly pretty unsettling theory known as the Great Filter. So what is the Great Filter? Well, it's this idea that there's some kind of barrier on the paths to developing life that is so incredibly difficult to get past that it stops almost every species dead in its tracks. A great way to picture it is like a giant cosmic sieve. Countless planets might start the journey towards intelligence, but almost none of them actually make it all the way through to become a star-faring civilization. Okay, so to try and figure out where this filter might be hiding, we can use this roadmap of 9 critical steps laid out by the economist Robin Hanson. The Great Filter is lurking somewhere on this path, somewhere between getting the right planet and a full-blown colonization of the galaxy. And that leads to the biggest, most important question for humanity. Is the filter behind us, or is the hardest part still to come? All right, let's start with the good news, the optimistic scenario. We'll call this case file number 1. We are the survivors. This is the idea that the hardest part is already over, and that we, humanity, are some kind of 1 in a trillion fluke that somehow, against all odds, made it through. And this really shows you just how special our little planet might be. The rare Earth hypothesis basically argues that the exact combo of factors you need for complex life to evolve is just unbelievably rare. Things like having a stable star, a magnetic field to protect you, plate tectonics, even a big moon to keep your planet from wobbling all over the place. Any one of these could be a massive filter that we've already cleared. And wow, this really drives the point home. Let's just take one of those factors, plate tectonics. It works like a planetary thermostat, recycling carbon and keeping the climate stable for billions of years. So when scientists recently went back and updated the famous Drake equation, but this time they added the requirement for long-lasting plate tectonics, the probability of intelligent life just plummeted. That number on your screen, that's the new estimate. It's possible that geology alone is the Great Filter. Or, hey, maybe the filter was biological. For almost 2 billion years, life on Earth was nothing more than simple, single-celled bacterial slime. That's it. Then, in what looks like a total one-off freak accident, one cell swallowed another one, and instead of digesting it, it just put it to work. That became the mitochondrion, the tiny power plant inside all of our cells. This incredible leap might be so insanely rare that most planets with life never get past the microbe stage. And this brings us to this huge fork in the road. And what it means for us, well, it's everything. See, if the filter is behind us, it means we are rare, we're special, and the entire universe could be our future. But if the filter is ahead of us, that means getting to our stage of development is actually pretty common, and that something almost always goes terribly, terribly wrong next. It could mean we're doomed. And that leads us to the other, deeply unsettling possibility. Case file number 2, we are the doomed. This is the idea that every single advanced civilization eventually reaches a final, unavoidable test, and that almost every single one of them fails. Now, a top contender for a future filter is something we are literally building right now, artificial superintelligence. And it could be a universal trap in a few different ways. The obvious one, of course, is a rogue AI just wiping out its creators, but even if it survives, it might just not care one bit about going to the stars. Or, here's the thought. Maybe the fear of those outcomes is the real trap, causing every smart civilization to just grind to a halt and never leave their homeworld. Another potential trap is what's called the sustainability gap. You see, our planet gave us this one-time inheritance of easily accessible stuff, fossil fuels, rich metal ores, you name it. And we're burning through that inheritance to power our climb up the technology ladder. So the filter, then, is a race against time. Can a civilization become self-sustaining and get off its planet before that starter pack of resources runs out? Because if it can't, it could be trapped forever.
But what if the filter isn't some big bang, but a choice? A psychological barrier? As this quote suggests, maybe advanced civilizations just become too afraid of risk. They choose being stable over leaping into the great unknown, so they never try to reach for the stars. They just choose to stay quiet. Which, of course, leads to another possibility.
And this brings us to a major twist in our investigation. What if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if the universe isn't empty, but just quiet? What if the silence is on purpose?
There are a couple of really chilling game theory scenarios for why this might be. The first is called the dark forest hypothesis. Picture the universe as a dark forest full of hidden hunters. You can never know the intentions of another species, so the only smart move is to stay absolutely silent. Because anyone who makes a sound and reveals their location is seen as a threat and, well, eliminated. The berserker idea is a variation, where some ancient civilization unleashed self-replicating killer probes programmed to automatically destroy any new intelligence they find. In either one of those universes, silence means survival.
All right, now this leads to maybe the most mind-bending idea of them all, the estivation hypothesis. The theory goes like this. The ultimate goal of any super advanced civilization is just processing information, basically thinking. And as this table shows, computation is way, way more efficient at colder temperatures. So what if they're not dead, but just hibernating, waiting trillions of years for the universe to cool down? To them, we're living in the loud, hot, inefficient morning of the universe. The real party doesn't start for a very, very long time. So after looking at all the evidence, where do we land? What's the verdict? What does the Great Silence actually mean for us, for humanity's future? Because this isn't just some abstract cosmic puzzle. This is about our own final exam. And this leads to an absolutely stunning and completely counterintuitive conclusion, summed up perfectly by this quote. Finding life on Mars, even simple little fossils, would be terrible news. Why? How could that possibly be bad news? Well, because if life starts easily, and maybe even evolves into complex forms easily, it dramatically increases the odds that the Great Filter isn't behind us, but is still waiting for us, in our future. A totally barren solar system, on the other hand, would be a huge relief. It would suggest that the steps we've already taken were the really, really hard ones. So in the end, the Great Silence isn't just an empty void. It's actually full of information. It could be a graveyard, a warning, or it could be a profound statement about our own uniqueness. The silence of the universe is a message written across the stars. And the only question left is, are we listening?